the fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll feel Memphis.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin. And today we're here to give our spoiler reactions to The Bears, Season 3. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Devin, this is our second recording today. What's going on?
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef. So, have you been inspired to cook anything that you've seen on The Bear or something remotely close that you've seen on The Bear that you want to cook in real life?
I've not thought about cooking anything from The Bear. It all seems pretty fancy, a little above my pay grade as far as cooking goes. Overall, I would say the show makes me miss just kind of the hustle and bustle of Chicago. It's a great city to be in. Makes me want to get some Chicago beef from the beef.
Some Chicago berry beef. I absolutely love it. Yeah, for those who don't know, Devin spent a few years out in Chi-Town, so this is a little bit close to home to him. He's originally a Clevelander, of course, but
had nice little side quest in Chicago for a few years.
Man, oh man, gosh, that seems like it was only yesterday. But yeah, this is, hey, at least I will say, with you living in Chicago, at least your allegiance did not waver from the Steelers to the Bears.
I mean, I do like the Bears, and they're in a different conference, so it's like I can root for them pretty easily. They're just kind of like the fun little brother. Like, oh, look at the Bears, they're so cute.
Well, with that, okay, it's the Bears, the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions. I believe.
Yeah.
They're the NFC North.
Yeah, so they're kind of like our version of just the NFC version. Yeah, the Bears are basically the Browns currently because the Lions have turned everything around.
Well, that was for one season. Let's not see. The Lions are like the Bengals.
Yeah.
They have one good season and they think they own the world. They think they own the entire division. It's like, okay, let's pack it up here. Like if we're comparing, the Packers are definitely, the counterparts of the Steelers, and then you have the Vikings for the Ravens.
It is pretty comparable.
That's crazy how comparable that actually is. But I digress. We're not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about The Bear, Season 3. So, as I mentioned before, this is going to be full spoilers for The Bear, Season 3. We're going to be talking about the spoilers in Season 1 and Season 2. So, if you haven't even started the show, you should probably just start it already.
It's one of the most bingeable shows out there.
It is. It definitely is. I will say for some reason, it took me a little bit longer to get through Season 3 than others. I think the episodes are a little bit longer in Season 3, but still keeps within that quick time frame, if that makes any sense. Because within Season 1 and Season 2, I think I blew through them within a day. But I think I was so overwhelmed with everything that was happening with all these other television shows releasing on a weekly basis that I took a little bit more time with The Bear Season 3. But we are going to be talking about full spoilers. So if you have not seen Season 3 of The Bear, go watch it and then come back and listen to the rest of our episode. So without further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to The Bear Season 3.
Feel good?
We're gonna see. Tick is good?
Check. Shark B?
Check.
Check. More left.
Stop. Now just slowly move it back to the right. All right, we're open.
Doors!
What's going on tonight? Have you been here before?
And we are back with The Bear Season 3. This is going to be a spoiler review. No holding anything back, Devin. We're going to be talking about it all. We're going to be doing the thing that people do in reviews. We're just going to be talking about it. Our likes, our dislikes, our what could have beens, our what should have beens, and all that. So the creator of the show, for those who do not know, it is Christopher Stower, and he also is an executive producer on this series. And the original network for The Bear is Hulu. So it's like FX that's on Hulu, but you can also watch The Bear on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can't even watch it on FX. Like, it has to be on Hulu or Disney.
Yeah, it's strange. So Hulu is like the original show or the original home for the show. And then you can watch Hulu on Disney Plus because there's a Hulu landing page on Disney Plus that you can click on it, and then it kind of just opens up that door. The rating for the show, of course, is TVMA for a mature audience. The genre. The genre. The genre officially is comedy, but I disagree with that so hard. So freaking hard. I disagree with that.
I think there's a term out there called dramedy for a reason.
I still feel like it's like 60, no, not even 60. It's like 80% drama and like 20% comedy. But we'll get into that in a bit. The release date for The Bear Season 3, all 10 episodes aired on June 23rd. Actually, no, that's the original release date. I'm so sorry. The original release date for The Bear collectively is June 23rd, 2022, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's been a nice yearly release so far, every June.
Yeah, that is very true. So, yeah, you can watch all 3 seasons on Disney Plus / Hulu all together. Yeah, season 1 came out in 2022. Season 2 was 2023. And now season 3 is 2024. Wow, that is very crazy to think about.
That's proficiency, just like a good kitchen should be.
Proficiency, non-negotiables, and the whole nine. But we have been told that they are working on season 4. We know that for sure.
Yeah, they were initially supposed to shoot 3 and 4 back to back, but they ended up just doing 3 because they didn't have 4 completely written yet.
Right. And everything that happened with the writer's strike and the actor's strike, that definitely takes effect into the release of season 3 and for season 4. But just to give a little bit of context, for season 1 of The Bear came out in 2022. It is at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Season 2 of The Bear is at 99%. This is like the certified fresh. Season 3 has actually dropped down to a 90%. And I actually agree with that score. I'm just going to come out. We're going to try this a little bit different here today. We're going to give our scores first. And then we're going to talk about why we gave those scores. And then we're going to get into the rest of the nitty gritty. So I would actually give season 3 of The Bear, I'm going to go with an 85% or 85 out of 100 because I love this show. Collectively, I absolutely love it. But I feel like season 3 is the weakest of the seasons that we've gotten so far. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good season. It's a good season of television, but it's not a great season of television, at least in my opinion. It seems that they have really leaned into the nonlinear storytelling, which I am all for. I absolutely love nonlinear storytelling, but I feel like that's really all of what, or for a majority of what season 3 is. And I feel like there's a lot of questions that we didn't get answered in season 2 that I was waiting for season 3, and we still haven't gotten around to those. But season 3 feels different. It doesn't feel bad. It just feels different. It's like, you've been eating, at the same restaurants, your entire life around your hometown. And then a new place pops up. It's new. It's cool. It's in your hometown. You go there, you try out the food. It's not bad. You don't hate it, but it has a different flavor to it that you're not used to. And I feel like that is what season 3 of The Bear is, where it's trying out something new. And I applaud it for that. And for those who don't know, Ayo Edebiri actually directed one of the seasons, or not seasons, sorry. She directed one of the episodes in season 3. I believe it was Tina's episode.
Yes, it was napkins.
Yes, napkins is what it's called. Napkins and ice chips were probably my 2 favorite episodes thus far. And I think season 3 has a lot of good moments here and there, but if we're talking about the season in a collective state, it's for whatever reason, it's not hitting, it doesn't hit as hard. And I think the main problem is that season 3 is a setup season for season 4, because within season 3, there's this food critic who's came to the Bear and has dined. No one really knew he was there. And Carmy's really going through it. Like you start to see the roots of his anxiety, of his panic attacks, of his stress levels, everything that's been going on in his job, everything that's been happening with Richie, everything that happened with his brother, everything that's happened with Natalie, their mother, and then Carmy's previous, I guess you could call one of his previous chefs that's played by Joel McHale, who has more of a speaking term or speaking roles this season. You start to see where all of that self-doubt and drive and worry and anxiety and self-inflicting harm, almost in a way, that comes out of Carmy's character. It really focuses on him. And we get a little bit of a focus on Richie, but not as much as we have in previous seasons. But yeah, it's basically the Bear in itself is in trouble because Carmy is trying to make it the best of the best by buying all this expensive materials, these expensive ingredients, expensive dishware. He's trying to make the Bear like the best restaurant, not even just in Chicago, but I think in America, maybe not even just the world. But there's just a lot going on in season 3, and I love the stress that it gives us, like, to an extent, because it is a very stressful season. But also I feel as if Ayo Edebiri's character, I feel like she kind of just was, Sydney was kind of just not there, but like she's faced with this decision where either she can become a partner of the Bear or she can be a sous chef at the food critic that reviewed the Bear.
Just sign it, Sydney. Just sign the DocuSign.
Yeah, just sign it. Just sign it, Sydney. Come on. What are you doing? But yeah, that's just my long rant of why I think season 3 is the weakest. But again, it's not that I don't think it's a good episode or not a good season. It is a good season. It's just not a great season. I think the Bear really hit its stride in season 2 specifically. And there's a massive cliffhanger that happens at the end of season 3. And I feel like towards the end of season 3 is where the story was finally getting started. but I'm going to pass it over to you, Devin. What are you going to give The Bear? Like, what would you rate it? Like we said, we're going to do ratings first this time around, and then give your explanation as to why you're giving it that score. So take it away.
Yeah, I do like mixing it up here. It's a nice little exercise. I think as far as the score goes, I'd probably give it like a solid 90 overall. Because I think the first two seasons are nearly perfect, especially season 2. So this one isn't quite on the same level, and I think that's okay. That's fine. There's still a lot of standout episodes here. And I appreciate the nuance that you were speaking with as far as your review, because I've just seen a lot of kind of exhausting discourse on Twitter from people about season 3. It's just kind of, you see people are saying like, oh, The Bear's been bad all along. Like the season hasn't been good. It was never a good show in the first place. And it's just like, where is this coming from? People are just making things up to try to sound different, I guess. And they're just trying to be contrarian, because I feel like in comparison to season 2, I think season 2 was one of the best seasons of television we've ever had, possibly. Like just the run that season 2 went on with some of those episodes, it's just incredible, and it's tough to ever top that. So obviously, if you're comparing it to that, it's not going to be the exact same. Like it's not going to be the exact same level as that. It's going to kind of hard to keep up that momentum, because it really was some of the best TV I've ever seen. So if you're comparing it directly to that, sure, it doesn't hold up as well. But I still think overall, it's just great television. As far as episodes that stood out to me, I do agree. Napkins and Ice Chips are definitely standouts. I also really loved the premiere tomorrow. Thought that was mesmerizing TV. Like I just couldn't look away. Like it was very interesting the way they did it. Kind of like a recap of everything we've had so far. I think that was very well done. I also really loved episode 3, Doors. I really loved the monologue from Marcus in that one. Thought that was beautifully done. Yeah, those are the 4 that stood out to me, and that's almost half the season. So it's just kind of showing how quality the show is overall, where almost half the season is just incredible episodes to me. And then there are others, maybe not as good, but definitely got the job done as far as filling out the rest of the story. It's funny you bring up the comedy portion, because I do think it's interesting. We've got a lot more of the facts this season, the fact family. I think that's been a major complaint from people. A little too much from them, like a little too much exposure to the facts. They are definitely funny whenever they are on screen, but I feel like it was a bit too much, especially if you're taking away from other characters like Richie or like Sydney. Definitely interesting when John Cena showed up randomly as a fact cousin, I guess. I guess he got all the looks and muscle in the family, because he does not look like the facts, that's for sure.
Not at all.
But yeah, I think overall, really, really great season. Like you mentioned, the cliffhanger. I think there's an issue with the finale where it kind of feels like we just jumped right to it, like without warning, because I wasn't really sure what was even happening, because they kind of mentioned in passing that the Olivia Colman chef was closing down her restaurant and retiring. But they didn't really mention that there was like some kind of big party being thrown for it that I remember. So we kind of just jumped straight to that, and I was just kind of confused at what was going on, and then I caught on, but it felt like it was like a weird time skip. That's what it kind of felt like when we got to the finale.
So I will say they did mention, I've forgotten what episode it was, but they did mention that Olivia Colman's restaurant was closing. Again, there's a lot of visual storytelling in season 3. They mention it quickly in passing that her restaurant was closing. I don't know if they had mentioned they mentioned, I think maybe it was in the finale when Carmy was trying to get Cindy to go to the funeral of, the final opening of Olivia Colman's restaurant altogether. But I do remember they mentioned it at some point.
Yeah, they definitely mentioned it closing, but it just felt like when they got to the party, it was just like, it felt kind of random, like out of nowhere.
Right. And I think towards the end, I think it was either Apologies or Forever it was Forever. The season finale is when we finally get the altercation between Carmy and Joel McHale's character.
Joel McHale is such a good douche. Like he just nails that character.
He's a douche in Community. He's a douche on the bear.
You should be thanking me. Like you could feel Carmy's just anger and
Everything that he's been feeling.
just all the emotions coming out.
Yeah, it all stems from
Because
it.
I feel like everyone has at some point in their life, everyone has a boss that's somewhat like that, where they don't respect you, and it feels like they're just tearing you down, and it doesn't feel like it's for the betterment of your career. It just feels like it's not helping, and they think it's helping, and that's just kind of how Carmy feels, and you can feel that.
As far as what you were mentioning about favorite episodes, I would have to say, I know tomorrow, like the first episode of season 3, is very divisive. I think production wise, it's that one episode that it's like, hey, we're back for a third season. This is how far we've come. It looks beautiful. The production is there, everything that you can ever hope for. In this episode, like it's just all there. It is visual storytelling, very little dialogue, but I gotta say it's not my favorite because I did feel like it dragged on just a little bit too much for me. I was literally ready to just get back into the chaos. When it comes to my favorite episodes outside of napkins and ice chips, I would say that next, episode 2, where Carmy sets the new standard for non-negotiables, because that is where I
think that was probably the funniest episode of the season.
See, and that's the thing. It's not that I didn't chuckle, but I love the chaos that they were able to, like, it felt like it's like a hardcore episode of The Bear. And then Doors was great as well. I think Doors, next, ice chips and napkins were my favorite. I think napkins was probably my number one.
It was great to see more from Tina because we hadn't really gotten
Yeah.
a lot of her background. It was great to see the struggle of her day leading up to finally getting the job at the Bear, and then obviously seeing John Bernthal back was great as well.
And I think that's probably why it was my favorite, because we got to see John Bernthal just again, and it shows that, you know, their brother's death wasn't all but forgotten, but it's like it also shows the importance of how one person's life just has affected so many and like multitude different ways. And then ice chips was great, of course, with Sugar and her.
It was great to expand on Nat as well. We don't get a lot of her, but it was great to see her and her mom's relationship. Jamie Lee Curtis just kind of being the great overbearing mom that at the end of the day, she knew what she was talking about, and she was right about most of it, even the he's that she did not want to partake in, but it worked.
He. So I gotta say it did work when it comes to ice chips. I think that is a beautiful episode.
I've seen some divisiveness on that episode. I don't know what the issue is with that one. I know Jamie Lee Curtis's character is a bit over the top, but I think overall,
but she is that kind of mother. It's like, there's something off about their mother. It's just she's dealing with her own stuff as well. And when you lose a child, it changes you forever. At least from what we've seen with this and things that I've seen like in real life, like it just changes you as a person. But even before then, it's like she was a little bit more sane during that Christmas episode in season 2, but she's like kind of off the deep end now. But I gotta say, I thought, because like I looked after I watched Ice Chips, I just looked to see like what the last 2 episodes were before I watched them, and then for the season finale, it says another funeral. I thought that Sugar lost. I thought she lost the baby during childbirth. That was my guess, is that she lost the baby during childbirth, but that didn't happen. The baby is healthy, happy. Has all 10 fingers and all 10 toes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's good.
He'll be chefing in no time.
Right. So the first funeral was with Marcus's mother. And he's in this season. Again, him, and I mean a little bit of Richie has still more staying power.
Yeah, I think Richie took the most backseat of the main characters. Like obviously he's still there. He's still got his storyline with his daughter and his ex-wife who has a new husband now, which was another surprise cameo we got there from Josh Hartnett out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that was a great scene that they shared together. I thought that was
That felt very real.
absolutely. I will say with Abraham, we didn't really get too much with him in Sweeps. And, Marcus, it's kind of like I feel like they like wrapped up his story after his mother's passing because, he's still making desserts at the Bear. But I wanted to touch on what you were talking about with the Fack brothers. I think, and I'm not sure if anyone else feels this way, but I feel like ever since they changed the genre, like when they kept putting the Bear in comedy, it's like, okay, I still don't feel like it's comedy, but I feel like they wrote this season with that in mind. Where, like you said, the Fack brothers or the cousin, no, they're brothers. They're like kind of like the comic relief, and it's like we got to dial them up to 11 to be like, hey, like this is comedy. I can't. I don't know. Like when I think comedy, I think The Office. I think Abbott Elementary. I think Community. I think any other like Friends or How I Met Your Mother. Like How I Met Your Mother is still a comedy. It has those serious moments, but the comedy outweighs the drama. And with The Bear season 3, the drama still outweighs the comedy by a large margin, at least in my opinion. But, if people think that this is a comedy, that's totally fine. All this is subjective at the end of the day. But every time that like I saw like John Bernthal on screen, or especially napkins or ice chips, it's like that is the Bear. That is what makes the Bear is by focusing on the side characters and their journey with the original Beef and with Carmy's character, and how everything just ebbs and flows into like this amazing like tapestry of culinary like perfection almost, where everyone has such a different background, but they're all family at the end of the day, and how crazy a kitchen environment can be. Because I have a friend he's on the he has his own podcast called the Movie Friends Podcast. Definitely check them out. His name is Seth. He lives in New York and he owns his own restaurants. And he said he didn't get through season 1 of The Bear because it was too triggering for him, because that is almost verbatim, he said, what it is like working in a kitchen where anything can anything can go wrong at any moment. And I miss the hustle and bustle of the everyday kitchen life. We didn't get a lot with Abraham. We didn't get a lot with Sweeps. The Fack brothers are there, but they're really just there to be cracking jokes. And they did feel a little bit insufferable at times. But I think what really makes this a non-comedy, at least in my eyes, are those serious episodes like Ice Chips, like Napkins, like even Tomorrow, like the very first episode of the entire series or season, and Doors and Next, episodes 1 through 3, with it being Tomorrow, Next, Doors. And then, there's a few things in between, but yeah, I was a little annoyed that Sydney just like, she was there, but she didn't, it's like she couldn't make a decision. I was like, this whole season feels like a part 1 to, and then of course part 2 being season 4. So it's like, I'm curious to see what season 4 is going to look like. And I hope it's more of a return to form. Like, not that it ever lost its form. It's just,
Yeah, I think people are just over exaggerating or like taking it too far, and they're just like, oh, this is not the bear that I knew, or the bear is never good. It's just like I said, it's hard to live up to season 2.
it really is. And, it's every series out there is going to have that one season that feels a little off to everyone. And I feel like season 3 of The Bear it's that one season that's not bad. It's just feels a little off. It's almost like Stranger Things, right? It's 4 seasons. What is the number one season that people talk about that feels a little off from the rest?
Everyone hates season 3.
I was actually going to say season 2 because of everything that happens with 11, and she like goes off on her own to like find the other experiments that were in the same lab. I think that aspect of season 2, at least to me, from what I've been gathering from people that I've talked to, season 2 of Stranger Things is the one season that has good moments. And it does have great moments, because that is like the season where 11 and Hopper are starting to live together, I think, out in the woods. So it's like season 2 of Stranger Things, where it has great moments. You have amazing new characters. We had Maxine come through in season 2, played by Sadie Sink. But for The Bear, they don't necessarily add more characters. It's just that one season that it fits within the Bear's story. But it's always, to me, going to be that one season that's like, oh yeah, this is where they started to experiment with a lot of things. And I think that is what season 2 of Stranger Things was like as well. But I also wanted to give props to Molly Gordon, who plays Claire, because she's also in this season. But again, it's more so in flashbacks, because we still don't have that resolution between Carmy and Claire and what's going on. There's been mentions of it, but nothing as of late. But I think the most frustrating thing, to me in this entire season was that Sydney could not, like, I don't know what she's waiting on. It's like, you have 2 great opportunities, and I know it's going to take time.
It is a tough choice, because just the fact that the reviews haven't been in for The Bear yet. Like, obviously, if they come in bad, like, it kind of makes the choice easier. But if they come in great, it's kind of hard to leave that.
Yeah, and it's like, maybe that's what she's waiting on.
But then it also, she might not look the best if she leaves, if she bails, if they're bad reviews. I don't know how that people would feel about that.
Yeah, it's weird where it's like, okay, so if The Bear gets a bad critic review or food critic review, we're talking about in the show, not like film critics. So if The Bear gets a bad food critic review, you think Sydney would stay, or do you think she would bail? You think it would be crappy if she bailed, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know, because she hasn't even asked Carmy yet.
That's true. She didn't run it by Carmy, because the other guy was like, hey, did you talk to Carmy yet? And she's like, no, I haven't. And maybe that's what she's waiting on. Because it was up until that point when she found out that the food critic had came, where she was like, oh yeah, like, by the way, he was already like, he's already been here. So, and it's like, oh, so I don't know.
Tough choice.
It is a tough choice. So, but let's say if The Bear gets a good food critic review, does she leave?
I honestly feel like it's a good point. It could be like, if it gets a good review, you feel good about leaving, because then you can just go and do your own thing after the success. Like, you left it in a good place, and then you can go build your own kitchen how you want it. Because obviously we saw throughout the season, her and Carmy started disagreeing a lot on certain food decisions, and that was weighing on her.
And the episode 7 legacy, when they're talking about, all these other chefs' legacies, where, they would start off in the same spot and then branch off and kind of do their own thing and possibly reconnect later down the road. So, yeah, That's a good point. I never actually thought of it that way. That is very interesting. See, and that's what makes this season so like feel different. Is that the clues are there. It's just
There was no final resolutions, which I think people are probably upset about.
yeah, and that's always going to be the case. Like with every season of television, you start off season one, you establish everything, and then there's some type of resolution that always happens in a season of television. But there's also a new situation that comes out of the resolutions of the previous season. We got that with season 1 to 2, but we're not really getting that from season 2 to 3. So it feels, I think the best way to describe the Bear season 3 is probably a detour, if that makes any sense. It's just more of a detour because the resolution between Carmy and Claire has not been resolved. And it, like I said, it feels like season 3 is just getting started when the season finale hits. Because the review is up. I'm pretty sure it's a bad review. I'm pretty sure it is.
I think they kept showing like different clips of it being good and or bad.
Yeah. Okay. So it's more of a mixed reception, which
Just showing the possible outcomes.
okay.
At least that's what I think it was.
Okay, because I thought that the review was in, like it got published.
It comes in at the very end of the finale. That's
Right.
when he checks his phone.
But then he says, well, we can't cuss here, but he yells out the F word.
Yeah, it could be bad, or it could be a exclamation, I guess, of excitement.
Yeah, because everything that was happening with Jimmy's character, because I guess he's bankrupt almost in a way, probably because of Carmy's expensive habits.
Yeah, they had to bring in the computer.
I think my favorite part with that when they brought in the computer guy or the computer, where he's like, hey, he's like, so what about this Marcus guy? And then Sugar's like, what about him? He's like, well,
And then she's just like, hell no,
yeah, she was like, no,
stand down.
yeah. I like how they had that camaraderie there, where it's like his job wasn't even in question.
Yep.
Of being removed.
He's been through enough.
Exactly. So, I mean, hey, they brought in the computer to cut down some costs. He was like, you got a dude just making like two desserts. I was like, I mean, logistics shows, yeah, he's got to go. But at the same time, I'm like, you can't get rid of Marcus. Like, you can't. You cannot. But yeah, it's a good season of television overall. Is it the best season of The Bear? No. It's just it's that detour. It's the new thing on the menu that everyone's like, oh, like what is this? And you try it out and it's like, oh, it's not bad, but it's different. But yeah, I think I agree with you. Everyone's talking about there's no real resolution, but it is a good cliffhanger though, and that is something that I have to commend them for. And obviously they know what they want to do for season 4. So
I don't think it's bad to have a 2-season arc in a story, which is what they're going for here, obviously.
and it's something you don't really see all that often. I mean, thank God it's not like season 3 of The Bear part 1 and then season 3 of The Bear part 2. Like, this is still just season 3. It's just the story is spanning across 2 seasons of, from the beginning to whatever the end of the conflict's going to be for The Bear. And I don't know. I think I was always trying to guess how many seasons of The Bear would actually run. I think 5 or 6 is a good place to stop, personally. Because I feel like it can't go on for too long. Like I can never see it doing 7 or 8 unless they just change out all new characters, all new stories. But I think 5, maybe 6. Let's go with 5 seasons. I think 5 seasons would be good.
Yeah, I think 5 is the magic number for the kind of prestige television nowadays.
I agree. Yeah, because like I said, you don't want it. You can't let it last too long because people will get tired and bored of it, and you have to know when to stop. And I think, especially for a show like this, I think 5 is definitely a magic number all around. But let's get into our final thoughts here, since we already gave our ratings. I believe you gave it a 90 out of 100. I gave it an 85 out of 100 is what I said, I believe. So let's just give our final thoughts here. Devin, what are your final thoughts on season 3 of The Bear?
Yeah, overall great season. Doesn't live up to the incredible heights of season 2, but I don't think that takes away from the show really in any way. I think it's just kind of great quality TV, with almost half the episodes for me being an amazing entry into the series, but just not hitting the insane highs that season 2 did. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think overall it's one of the best shows on television right now, and the awards speak for themselves on that one. I think I'm definitely excited for season 4 to see where they go with this one, because like we mentioned, season 3 is just kind of leading into season 4.
Yeah, and I agree. It's tough because how do you top season 2? And I feel like The Bear has set a very high bar for itself, a very high standard of excellence for itself. And I feel like season 3 of The Bear it's giving off like this aroma, or like something's cooking in the pot that we just have to figure out what it is. So there's setup here, and there's nothing wrong with setup and payoff. It's just, things do happen in season 3, but it's just different. And I agree, what you're saying. It's, the resolution is going to come in season 4. I'm hoping that it does, because it seems that way. And I just hope that we get more resolutions. It just feels a little bit.
I think it just makes the beginning of season 4 that much more exciting, because we just have the floodgates opening to where we left off from season 3.
That is true. I like that analogy. The floodgates have definitely been open. We have to figure out, we still have this wedding that we have to go to. in the show, of course. We have a wedding we have to go to in the show with Richie's ex-wife, and, him dealing with all of that. Of course, everything that was happening with Natalie. Now that her baby is born, that is where the real challenge begins. And then we have to figure out, what Marcus's next steps are. The Fact brothers. I would love to see more of Sweeps and Abraham in the next season, as well as Claire, because she's like the love interest for Carmy.
Yeah, Carmy's got to make a decision.
Yeah, and Sydney's gonna make a decision.
We have a lot of decisions.
There's a lot of decisions going on here. It is. Whew, it's just as chaotic. It just feels a little different. It tastes the taste is a little different, but it's not bad at all. It's still a good season of television. So with all that said, that does conclude today's episode of The Bear season 3. So Devin gave it a 95 out of 100. I gave it an 85 out of 100. So I believe the official podcast score for The Bear season 3 is an 83.5 out of 100 for this season. And with all that said, that does conclude today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Optix. That is Optix with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a fellow movie lover, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. And now let's take a sneak peek at what's coming up next on the show. So we're going to be covering movies such as Twisters, that is plural, Twisters with an X, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Devin, you might have to watch Long Legs on your own, man, because wow, I'm scared.
I'm excited.
I'm scared. I don't know, man. Like, I've never felt this more uncomfortable after I saw Smile, and I was like, that messed with me.
Yeah, I've actually avoided trailers for Long Legs for the most part because I just don't really want anything spoiled. So I haven't really seen any like visuals or anything.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that movie. I mean, if you want to go ahead and see it, I can't promise I'll be there. I can't promise. I can't promise at all. But outside of those, for movies that we're going to be covering in the coming weeks, you can also listen to our Kinds of Kindness review. You can also listen to our Maxine and our A Quiet Place Day 1 review, as well as our Inside Out 2 review as well. I'm so happy that movie is doing so well in the movie theaters, and wow. Pixar is, it's such a heartfelt sequel. I absolutely loved it, and everyone should go watch it in theaters. And you should also watch Maxine in theaters if you are a slasher horror film fan. But yeah, Devin, I think you're venturing into uncharted waters on your own. Man, something tells me that it's not going to sit well with me. Not that it's not going to be a good movie, but the fact that, there's just some horror movies I can't touch at all. It's too much for me. But with all that said, thank you all for listening. If you enjoy the show, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And stay connected with us by following us on Twitter and Threads and Instagram for the latest updates. That was Devin, and I'm Christian signing off. And remember, life is like a movie. So go out there and make it a blockbuster.
Peace.